Hello, everybody. My name is Michael, and some of you might know me as Coding Jungle. And today I want to talk about Babble version 3. I'm going to go over some of the settings and some of the changes for it. Obviously, the biggest change for 3 is the global bar. The reason that came into existence is because people have been asking for something like this, but they're also been asking for something else, and um, trying to manage all that, I came out with a system that I was comfortable with developing and supporting. And, I drew inspiration from my operating system. The chats open up in their own, I guess you could say, windows. And they will, you can move them, you can resize them, you can pin them, you can close them back out, and all that. Stupid. Select. Um, like I said, you can open them and resize them. There is a limit to how much you can resize them. Like as you can see, there's kind of a issue there, um, but it's fixed if you like reload the room. Like if you were to do that and hit back, it would fix itself, or refresh the page. So I've tried, like I said, I've tried to fix as many of those kind of errors or display errors as I can. Um, the idea behind the resizing and moving in the windows, because sometimes I like to keep open in one of my chats while I'm reading the site or going over or doing work in stratagem or something, and I want to keep the chat open. And this allows me to do it. I could pin it to the screen, and it will stay in that position. And if I was to go to another page, it would always stay open. It would stay open. And then I could type my messages and whatnot. And so that's one of the reasons why that exists. Now there is a second view to Babel 3, and that's called the. It's not really called anything. I kind of call it the legacy view, but but in the settings it is basically disable chat. Disable chat bar, and you get a view that's more like this one, but with some major changes in it. Like I said, I don't want to make this video like super long. I know it's going to be long, but I don't want it to be like 2 or 3 hours. So my plan is to touch upon the new features and settings and whatnot, and then do videos on those components individually. So with Babel 3, you get whispers in private rooms. Whispers are more or less the same that they were in 2 here. It's just they're different. They're done differently. They're basically rooms now. They're they're private rooms without being private rooms, because a whisper is a conversation between two individuals, where a private room is a group message basically. So keep that in mind. All right, so you have the chat bar. You can open and close it. You can even reposition it. There's a setting where you can set it to the top, to the bottom, to the left here. And the open and close state is honored through page load. So if you close it on this page and you go to the another page, it stays closed, and then you can just open it back up. I also tried to make it where it pushes the body over, so it's not like covering up like your side panel or something. All right, so you got your settings. Let's explain this now. On Babel 2, you had the connection screen, and that's what that is. It would tell you that you've connected to Babel or you've been disconnected. Here, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to display that. So here it's just this icon here, and if you're connected, it will flash green, and if you've been disconnected, it will flash red. So that's the idea behind that, and it also serves as the secondary function of being the open and close. to the chat bar. All right, next thing on the list is you have your, if you have it's a group permission, and we'll go over those later, for private rooms. And again, private rooms are basically group messages. And if you type in the people you want to invite, and you can, I have it set to on default to 5, but again, that's a user setting, and you can change it to either 0, which will allow that group to invite unlimited amount of people, or you can just change the number of how many people they can invite. So we're gonna start up a private room with Tucker over here, and as you can see, it pops up a message over here on Tucker's screen that says you haven't been invited by Michael to join the private room, and it gives the room's name, which was test here, and it asks you if you want to join or not. Now, if they choose to join, they get added to the online list or the room members list here. But if they choose, not to join, or they haven't received it yet, like here in the manage members, it will show them as a pending member. So let's go ahead and join. And as you can see, it opens up the window, and it looks a lot like this window over here, but there's a leave option here, and for members who join it, and for the owner of the room, which is the person who created the room, they have more options than regular members. And no, there is not a way to assign like moderators. I might consider it for later versions where you can assign more moderators to private rooms. Like if you got like if you don't do clubs, I mean, that's another option. There are club rooms like there was in 2 here for 3. All right, so you have your members. Let's say you want to get rid of one of your members because they're dysfunctional or they're never online. That's where the manage members come in. You can invite additional members and it will tell you who's joined and who hasn't joined. And if you want to get rid of them, you can just come here and click on this button that says, hey, are you sure you want to remove Tucker from the room? You type yes, it'll come over here. If they're online, it will tell them they've been removed. If they are not online, it will just when they come there, the room will no longer exist in their list over here. Again, you can invite members, so if you want to invite Tucker back or another member. Now, on this one, you can only do one at a time. There's a reason for that. I'm not really going to go into it. It's kind of a technical reason. It basically, it's just it was less it made the code not as complicated, which complicated code will make for potential bugs in the future. So that's why you can only invite one at a time on the invite, but when you first create the room, you can add as many as you want. And this does follow how many, like if they hit their limit, it will actually on the invite list here, on the manage members list here, the invite button will disappear. I am considering adding a, if there is a user limit, like how many more they can invite or something like that. I might do that. I haven't decided yet. But again, it will work the same way that Tucker will get a notification if he's online. Now, if he's not online, the notifications get stored and it's supposed to pop up. Don't worry, that will be fixed. There was a last minute change I had to do earlier that I know what's caused it. But basically, if they're not online when they get it, that same message will appear to them once they sign on. So they could join the room after, if they're not online. So, like I said, that bug was actually caused by a change I made earlier because of I was storing that information as a JSON, and I figured I could easily search a JSON, but apparently to search a JSON array in MySQL, the field's got to actually be marked as a JSON field, and Unfortunately, IPS doesn't support that. So I had to convert it over to a comma delimited list. And so that's where we're at now. But anyway, that's how these messages work. Now you also got another option. You can actually create bots. Again, this is a group setting. It's also a global setting, and I'll go over that more later. But on the group setting, you can determine which bot types that they can use and how many bots that they can have. Because, like you said, you don't want to give them unlimited bots and then have somebody sit there and create, say, 200 time bots, and that can cause some performance issues because those do run on the server, on your server, not mine. That it runs through, like if you're on the chat service, it sends the messages through the chat service, but the message still gets processed and everything by your server and by your task. So keep that in mind. You might want to limit how many they can actually have per room, and that's why there's also a limit on how many private rooms they can have. Because if you set their private rooms to say unlimited or to 20 or something, and then give them 5 bots, and then they create 5 bots per that's 100 bots still. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, you can also limit which bots that they have access to. Like if you don't want to give them time bots, you don't, notification, registration, that sort of thing. You can limit in the group settings which bots they actually have access to. Now, if you give them bot access, you got to give them at least the ability to create 1 bot. So keep that in mind. All right, but they can create the bot, and they work just like they do in the ACP. They get the options, and then there's a little guide down here on how to, what are some of the swapped out variables that they can put in here, to make it a little bit more personalized and whatnot. So there is that. All right, then they save it, or they can cancel it, and canceling it takes them back here. But that's what the bots do. And these are available to private rooms. They're not available for whispers because, again, that's a conversation between you and the other person. So I didn't think it was a feature for whispers to have, so that's why they don't have it. Like I said, if you delete the room, everybody gets kicked out of it. They don't have the option to stay in the room after it's been deleted because you are the owner. And again, there is no way to transfer the ownership. There's no way to add group permission or permissions for other members. It's pretty much like here the owner gets a modicum of administrator or moderator privileges, like they can delete messages and kick people, and not kick them but remove them. These commands, like the invite and the remove, they are commands. Like there is invite and remove for the owner to invite and remove people if they want to, and it works similar to like ban and ignore. But again, like I said, I wanted with 3 here, I wanted to make it more accessible. So I guess you could say I hijacked the command system and created a GUI interface for it. I did what Macintosh did for computers all those years ago for Babble. All right, enough of that. All right, so if I delete the room, it deletes it out and removes it from my list. All right, so that's that. Let's go to, like, the online list is its own window here. You can keep it open, pin it, move it, close it, that sort of thing, like you can with the rooms. If you have whisper ability, again, that's a group setting. It works similar, but to the private rooms, but it's, like I said, it's a one-on-one thing. Like, there are no limits to how many whispers a member can have, because again, they're a one-on-one thing, and it doesn't subtract from their private room count. So if they have their max on private rooms, they can still create whispers. And then, again, you have the choice of accepting the whisper or ignoring it. Let's go ahead and accept it, since the other feature is not working right now because of that change. All right, so it works similar to, say, the IPS Messenger up here. If there is no owner per se, there's only the members, so you can't invite more people to it. You don't have options for bots, but more or less everything that works in Babble works here. Like there are no commands because it's a whisper. Um, but you can, if you leave the room and they leave the room gets deleted. It doesn't exist anymore. But if only one person leaves the room, the other person will still have access to the chat history. And if that person who left decided to whisper that person again, that chat history would repopulate because the room does exist. But like I said, if both parties leave, the chat history and the room gets deleted. But if only one leaves, the chat history is preserved. So keep that in mind. And we're going to go ahead and leave, and it will just pop a message over here that says Michael's left the conversation, and conversation members will now only show Awesome Tucker. And this does show their online status in real time. So if they're not online, when you start the whisper or open it up, it will show a red circle here, and it does the same on private rooms. I didn't really go over that. All right, so the last thing I want to show you on the front here is the settings, which we had in 2. But shockingly enough, I found this one kind of like a gobsmack. Was a lot of people they didn't know this existed in 2. Like I'd get questions like, "Oh, how do I turn on the sounds?" or "How do I turn off the sound?" Well, it's in your settings. Oh, what's those? I don't see them on my settings. I to be honest with you, the reason I put it with Babble is because they're Babble settings. I didn't want to like dig them over here in the account settings. I mean, I guess I could have put them in the account settings, but I mean, maybe I should. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Should I put those settings in account settings too, just in case? Anyway, they do exist in the chat bar, and like in the legacy view too, they also exist similar up here. But as you can see, there's quite a few new ones, and I'll do a separate video on all the settings and what they do. But there are quite a few new ones. Some of the old ones have been removed. I think the only one that's been removed, to be honest with you, is whisper sound, because again, whispers are now rooms, so they operate off the sounds for the rooms. And if there is a popular demand for it, I'll add back in, because maybe you want to get whisper sounds but not any other sounds from any of the other rooms. Maybe it was a bad idea to remove it, but I did remove it. So if there is a demand, I'll put it back in. All right, that's pretty much it on that end of things. Now I want to go back and come back here to the ACP. I'll probably have to sign back in. Yeah. All right, so this hasn't changed all that much. There are some little bitty changes. I'm getting kind of old here. But let's go over some of the changes. Like, let's come over here and go to the ACP on 2 so I remember all the changes. Well, maintenance tasks are not running. Yes, cancel. It's a dev board. We don't care about maintenance tasks. All right, so yes, we know we're on an older version. IPS and their annoying notifications. All right, so you still have copyright removal. I've added disable all bots because now private rooms and club rooms, which we didn't go over, but club rooms are virtually identical to regular rooms, and they're somewhere in between a private room and a regular room, which are regular rooms are these here, the ones you set up that you give them permissions and whatnot. All right, anyway, now if you want to disable all the bots, this will kill all the bots, even for the regular room. So if there's a lot of bots being created and you want to go fix that, like delete them and move them around, you can just disable them. Command symbol. For some reason, I had this as a request, and I didn't give it a whole lot of thought at the time. But since since I had to rewrite a large portion of Babble, I decided to see how feasible of an idea this is. Typically on commands, if we come here and we type the /, we get a command list. And then we can choose which command we want to use. But here, if you don't want it to be the /, say you want to be, you want the hashtag or the #, to some of my boomer friends out there who know what a # is. Oh. So if you want to change it, you can, but it has to be a symbol. It can't be a letter or a number. And the @ symbol, which is this one, is protected because the @ mentions use it. So any other symbol that exists on your keyboard, if you wanted to be a comma, you can. If you wanted to be the caret or the greater sign, you can. But it's got to be a symbol, and it can't be alphanumeric, basically. Enable cleanup is still here, but there is a change. You can actually tell it how many days now, and I keep forgetting to add that language string. On the original one here, it just cleaned them up regardless. It was 24 hours. You had 24 hours to keep all messages, that kind of thing. But here you can set how many days out it does it with. Kick time's the same, so the kick feature, which we didn't go over. If you kick somebody, that's how many minutes they're out for. Inline notifications, like if anyone doesn't want to kill off it altogether, that's still there. Additional help is still here. Layout, there's no more enable, disable counts. They just show up. They work with menu groups manager or the regular menu. And the reason I've changed that is because now they operate from a cache that's stored on your server instead of mine. So it's not and plus if you got the chat bar, there's no menu item for the chat bar, so it's not really needed. I didn't think it would need it. Collapse online list, that again, that's no longer here. And there is disable online list. Like if you want to get rid of it altogether, there are some sites that have requested this feature. That's why it replaced collapse online list. You still got the reverse order. Now you can disable the uploads. Like if you want to not have uploads, like if you got those annoying people who insert large, it even kills off the insert link one. So if you want to get rid of them altogether because people are annoying you with it, you can kill them off here. Like I said, you can disable the online list altogether. Images are still the same. Like you can choose between the IPS, the hidden, the resize. There are some new settings here on bots. Like you can determine how many max phrases a bot will match. Like it's a global setting. I had it in the or I tried to have it in the bot itself, but the request for that feature, actually the mini request for that feature implied that they wanted it for all bots, and I just, instead of being all kinds of hacky with storing counts and everything in temporary caches and stuff like that, I decided to just make it a global option versus trying to set it in the bot itself. Here you can, for private rooms, you can enable or disable bots altogether for private rooms. So if you've got it disabled and it's a private room bot, it won't run. They won't even get the option to add new bots, that sort of thing. Clubs have gotten a facelift too, because now you can use bots in the club. It will now operate from there. And I know the max upload size is no longer a part of the clubs. The reason that is, it runs off the site, the site stuff, so wasn't a need for it anymore. But again, if you don't want the clubs to have bots, you can disable them here too. You can determine how many max bots a club can have and which bots that they can have access to, just like you can in the group settings, which I know we haven't gone over yet. Sound files are more or less the same. Everything else, like I said, everything else is more or less the same in the ACP. There is a new setting for commands, though, that I'll go over real quick. Like if you go to edit, I know this will look different for you because I'm in a dev mode, and this one isn't. Well, I guess they do look similar, but you can't change settings here. There is a private room option now. Like you can allow a private room to use the command. The owner will be able to use it. That's why the owner thing is a thing, because of stuff like this. So if you want to give them the permission, now there are some of them you can't give them that permission, like the kick, the mute, the password. They just won't show up because there's no reason for them to be on a private room, so I actually banned them out of the code. So keep that in mind. Most of them you can give them to the room itself, and some of them will work naturally in the room, like ignore, because ignore is a whole different animal. It's that. Members restrictions works more or less the same way. I don't think I have anybody restricted, but you can filter by mutes and bans, and it will show you the member, which room it is, the IP address, who restricted them. If it's an expiration one, like a ban, who's got an expiration, and then the type, if it's a ban or a mute, and then if you can delete it or not. Some things have changed in the room. I don't want to say much has changed. I think the ordering of some of the things have changed. Like the password protect, I moved it down because for whatever reason in Chrome, it doesn't do it in Firefox, but it does it in Chrome. It assumes, since these are so close to each other, I guess, that I'm trying to create a user with a password. So I moved it down. It's down here now. But everything else works more or less the same way. Like you could still choose if the post add incrementally to the post counts, that sort of thing. Layout. I'm pretty sure. Oh, hide bot name's been removed. Oh, that's why another reason why the disable online list is now a global setting, because because the rooms exist all together now, so there's no individual list for the room. You can still, those are the same. That's the same. That's the same. I'm pretty sure that's the same too. Yeah, you can. Those are the same. Group content's the same. Like I said, that's all more or less the same. Now let's go to groups themselves. Alright, we're in the administrators. Let's come over here. Groups. Administrators. Go to the Babble tab. I don't even think there is a Babble tab. Yeah. I don't think I had any group settings for Babble 2. But here there's a whole lot of them. Like you can now kill off complete access to Babble for the group, basically now. You can tell them if they can do whispers or not, private rooms. Because before that, some of these settings were actually I guess that's another thing that's changed on the room. Some of the permissions are different because again, like I said, they're not the rooms exist all together, so that's why some of these things are global now. And so let's go back to Devil is Babble. That is. Like some of the permissions, like view, message, whisper, edit, delete, upload, archives. Those don't exist, or not all of them exist now in 3. I think the only ones that exist in 3 are view and add. Yeah, view and message. So these two exist. Whispers no longer exist because now it's a group setting. Edit. Now, edit and delete, I know a lot of people were confused by this one. This was basically settings, can they delete other people's messages and edit other people's messages. Now, these are defunct because now it's based on staff setting, like staff rankings. Like, can they edit all messages? And then you can, I think you can even, I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure you can limit it by the room and whatnot. I did have that in there. It's been a while since I've added that part because there was a bug in, I think, 4.4, but they fixed it in 4.3 on that kind of thing. Same with edit and delete. Upload is now again, that's a user setting, so, or a group setting. Archives no longer exist. There was no need for them. So, like I said, those permissions are gone now. All right, so now in the group settings, we have can they whisper or not, private rooms, and here you can set the max number of private rooms that they can set. You can set it to 0 for unlimited, but I advise against that. Max users, like how many people they can invite to the room. Again, I've got it set to 5. You can change that. If you set it to 0, it's unlimited. Private room bots. There is no unlimited setting for this because I knew if I put one in there would be people be like, "Oh, I want to put it to 0," and not allow them to have any bots without realizing that that's not what that setting did. If you don't want to give them private room or private room bot access, you disable it. The number is how many they can have, and then again you can limit it by types. That's pretty much it on the group settings. Like I said, I think on the staff settings is where you can tell them. Yeah, I think it's one of these two. That is somewhat confusing, I think. Let's unrestrict it. No, I guess I was wrong. Maybe it's an admin setting. I know it's in one of these. Or I might have taken it out because add administrator. It's add a group, add members. It's a dev board, nobody really cares. I don't care. Unrestricted, there it is. Oh, wrong thing. Oh, manage rooms. Oh, that's an ACP thing. Alright, so I'll have to add that back in because I had it in at one time. Yeah, it looks like I either removed it or I didn't have it in this version of Babble. But that will give them the option to delete others. But I think that's also a group setting, if I'm not mistaken. I might be misremembering. Yeah, can edit others, can edit their own content. You can, yeah, you can change it for Babel if you need it. Yeah, they can delete their own content, and I think on the other advanced settings or general settings. No, I think general settings is just that crap. It's somewhere around here. There it is, posting. Yeah, allowed file types, remote posting, edit content. Permanently delete content. I'll get it all figured out, guys. Don't worry. Don't. Actually, you know what? I think I do know where it's at. I'm the creator of this app, and I don't remember where anything's at. It's just there's a lot to remember. Yeah, content can pin all content, can unpin all content, can edit all. Yeah, if you turn it off, there's I think Babble shows up. Maybe not. Why is that two different ones? What's going on here? Why do you two? Can edit strategy, manage all projects. Why is that two different ones? They do that. I'll have to cut all this out. What's it do if I do uncheck all? Oh, no, it doesn't do it. I thought I had honestly I did. I honestly thought I had a section in here for Babble. I know I did at one time. It just now I'm curious why stratagem shows up here twice. Babble's a content item. I don't know why it doesn't. I don't know. Like I said, I'll figure it out before I release it. So just ignore this section. I don't know what I'm talking about. Is it over here? A 2.0. I know I had it in there at one time. No Babble. Content. Still no Babble. Huh. Interesting. I knew I had it in there at one time. I just don't remember. Well, I might have, honestly, I might have taken it out because of the bug. I think that might actually be why I took it out, was because there was a bug in, because I wanted to assign it to a room, like, you know, sign the administrator, like sign the moderator to the room, like specifically. And I think I took it out because there was a bug. So, all right, that's enough of that. Let's go and let's just show off some cool some of the other things in Babble. Okay, if I could find Babble in general, let's go disable the chat bar. Let's go see what that looks like. Oh, here's the new idle message. Like in this one, it would just black out and say return to Babble. Here it actually says you've been idle for 15 minutes. Babble will disconnect you in 30 seconds. I wanted to make it a countdown, but I couldn't figure out how to do that. I might try that for a later version. Then it says, do you wish to stay logged in or not? I mean, if you choose no, it's going to disconnect you. And if it's already been past the 30 seconds, and you see this message, it will just reload the page, basically. And since we disabled the chat bar, we won't have it. Now, on the disabling and enabling of the chat bar, the menu item will disappear if it's enabled, and so will the widget. I mean, you can still place the widget, but it won't do anything because the output is told not to send out. So if you go to the page, I mean, this is what it looks like. You have your online list over here. I know it might be confusing, but I might actually give an option to which site to place it on. I'm not sure if I'm going to make that a user setting or a global setting. I might make it a user setting. But you can collapse it like you can in two. Not as flashy, but it not meant to be. I think there's enough flash in Babble already with all the new features. But you get like tabs for the room. So if we were to say whisper Tucker here, oh there's that feature I was telling you about where since Tucker hasn't left the room, it just opens back up. It doesn't send a notification or anything. It just opens back up, and it should add you to the conversation list. I don't know. That's one bug I haven't tracked down yet because I've seen it's such a minor thing. Because if you refresh it, like if I was to, well, I guess I can't do that. I guess I would have to refresh the page, wouldn't I? It shows up now, so don't really see it that big of a deal. But I know it's a real-time chat. It should automatically add it, but it doesn't. But all the features that were in the chat bar more or less work the same here, with the exception of they don't open up in their own windows, basically. They get opened up to the chat bar here. And then you can just switch between the two chats, by clicking on that. Like I said, you can disable the online list. You can't close it. I might actually make that like the I don't think it does it here. I think it does it on the widget. Yeah, you can minimize the widget. Might actually make that button do that before I release it. Do that for the chat view or the legacy view. But it all works more or less the same. And like I said, I try to preserve the general look of the legacy, but also combine in the new features. That's why there's a chat bar instead of these separate things. Like I said, the archive no longer exists. That existed because originally Babble didn't have a scroll, like a infinite scroll, and when I added the infinite scroll to 2, I just never removed the archive feature, but I did in this one because it just doesn't make any sense with the infinite scroll. Plus the code was kind of weird because of the advanced search and all that it had. It was kind of cumbersome, so I removed it. But yeah, everything works pretty much the same way. If you always go to a regular room and click on members restrictions, it loaded up here. There needs to be a little bit padding there. But same with help. It's loads it up in that general area. Mobile, you got the chat bar. It works more or less the same, but on this, it drops all the rooms down to a list that you can open and close. Chat bar, or the what you call it, the online list opens up, closing out the others. So there is that. These open up in their own windows. Actually, I'm going to show you the chat bar in the mobile since I'm doing that here. But yeah, it opens up. It works more or less the same, but instead of having individual windows you can move about, it kind of opens them up over here in the dock. And then the same thing holds true that if somebody sends you a message with the bar closed, it should give you a notification. Yeah. It gives the notification, and as soon as you open it, it tells you which room it is, and if you go to that room. But yeah, everything opens up here on the side here, and close it out. Oh, I don't know why I did that. Might have to debug that too. But yeah, the chat bar stays closed. On pages and whatnot. And hopefully, when I tested it earlier, basically what will happen is if I click on this and the keyboard opens. Why are you doing that? That's a bug. I know what's causing it, but I need to fix that. Come on. I know exactly what's causing it. And that's the it's expecting the keyboard and it's trying to resize both of them. But I'll get that fixed in the before I release it. Like I said, this is still not early beta, it's late beta, but you know, it's still got its bugs. And part of it is the incorporating the two designs into the one. But yeah, like I said, if you have the chat bar disabled and you got widgets, you get menu items. You get a menu item for Babble, and if you got a widget, the widget shows up. And like I said, I'll probably make it for the final release that if you click that, it minimizes like it does here. Because I've been thinking about, I know that was somewhat of a popular feature, so, and I wasn't sure how I was going to incorporate it back into the chat bar or the legacy view. So there's that. All right. I think that's everything, minus the bugs and me can't finding settings I thought existed. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's been long, but hopefully it's been informative and you're excited about Babble 3.0 as I am. All right, you guys have a good night now.